And indeed, this has been a significant visit, not just for Kenya, but for the entire continent of Africa, in the sense that this is part of the culmination of the relationship that Africa has with the US. You will remember that this strategic partnership between Kenya and the US actually kicked off in 2018 between President Trump and President Kenyatta. And in 2022, the US launched its new reframed strategic partnership with Africa. So really, President Ruto's visit, I think, is just a climax of what has already been happening. Have Kenyans started feeling the impact? Maybe not. A lot of this bilateral agreements usually would take a couple of months, maybe a year or two, before you begin to feel the impact. What is instructive, however, is that the Assistant U.S. Representative for Trade is already in Kenya, and the whole of last week, her delegation and the delegation led by Minister of Trade in Kenya have been negotiating. It is part of the 2018 Strategic Trade and Investments Partnership negotiations, but I think we are reading more into it as having been timed perfectly to come after the visit so that they can really be able to get into the details of it.
Now, prior to his visit to the White House, he was in Atlanta. He spent a couple of days there speaking to Kenyans in the diaspora there, as well as, officials in Atlanta. And the question is whether that kind of engagement he had there is expected to translate into some economic benefits for the people of Kenya.
Yeah, very good observation, Esther. I think the Atlanta visit was very strategically crafted and curated between the two parties. You will remember that it is in Atlanta that one of Kenya's women-founded and women-led companies in the textile and clothing industry was launched a shop in Atlanta. It is in Atlanta that the big deal with Coca-Cola in terms of expansion of its operations, production for the region based in Kenya was also announced. It was also instructive to note that President Ruto visited Tyler Perry Studios. And we know, the creative economy is now a big driver with youth employment in Kenya and in the region. So it is indeed, I think, instructive, very well curated. We will see the huge African diaspora in Atlanta get engaged in a lot of this.
Ronald, if I could give you 30 seconds, how do you think his White House visit might impact the Russia-China influence that's already in Kenya and Africa very quickly?
I mean, the U.S. already has a bit of a headache with the Sahel. We've already seen Secretary Blinken pull out 1,000 of its troops from Niger. We will continue to see a lot of this kind of challenges for the U.S., particularly as Russia and even Turkey, by the way, move into coming up with security contracts for that particular region. As for China, China has been moving away from checkbook diplomacy, and I think the U.S. is really just now trying to catch up with China to be able to have more strategic investments in trade and in green energy.